Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second Shipped virtual conference. Octopus is the continuous delivery company. We set the standard for continuous delivery. And we don't just mean the technical practice of continuous delivery, but the philosophy behind it. We deeply believe that the principles of continuous delivery and agile software practices are the best way to create software that delights customers. And this quote sums up why we call this conference Shipped. It's a chance for us to share with you what we've shipped recently, what we plan to ship, and it also acts as a platform to talk about all of the human aspects involved in shipping software. But maybe before I talk about shipping, I want to focus on the valuable software part of this quote. Now, how do we know we're building valuable software? A big part of that is getting out there and talking to you. So this year, you'll have had the chance to meet us at KubeCon, at GitHub Universe, and many other events and conferences throughout the year. We ran in-person training around GitOps, and we visited dozens of customers face-to-face at their offices on site to find out how we can support customers better. So, and throughout this year, we also gather and read an enormous amount of feedback. We conduct a lot of customer interviews, and we make sure that everything that we're working on and everything that's on our roadmap reflects the things that are on your roadmaps as well, so that we can be a great partner for you. Um, and a big part of the feedback that we get also comes from real world usage. Of every vendor that you have, I'd hope that Octopus is in the top 3 vendors as far as the support response time that we get and our ability to resolve issues and work well with you with our amazing support team that's spread around the world. Shortly, I'm going to be talking about a couple of the big trends that we focus on. And in this keynote, you're going to see a lot of focus around Kubernetes and platform engineering and those big areas of focus for us. But I don't want to make it seem like that's all that we're working on. In fact, we've got over 300 Octonauts today, and they're working on continually working on making Octopus better. And we're able to work on a lot of things in parallel too. So some of these things that we've done in the last year, you won't even necessarily see covered in this keynote, but there's a lot of very cool things that we've shipped this year, including the ability to freeze deployments during a change, freeze, support for Artifactory generic feeds, and a whole host of other features that you'll see, some throughout shipped and some you'll have to have a look on our website. So while we shipped a lot of things in 2024, I'd say there were 2 major areas that we've been focused on. The first, of course, has been all around Kubernetes. It's really clear that Kubernetes is becoming the enterprise computing platform of the future. And we have many hundreds of customers, in fact, using Octopus for Kubernetes today, and many more who we know are working on Kubernetes projects that we're working with. And Kubernetes is different. It doesn't just involve new tooling, but also new paradigms around how we work. So a big part of our focus in the last year has been, the differences between continuous delivery as a practice and GitOps and those sort of paradigm differences. But generally, I think you're going to see a lot of stuff around Kubernetes in this keynote today, and I think you'll get the sense that of all the companies that are working in this space, we are the most prolific as far as different things that we're doing in terms of Kubernetes, in terms of GitOps, in terms of Argo support that you're going to see later. And we've got a lot of exciting stuff we shipped in 2024 and a lot coming soon. The second big area of focus for us is around platform engineering, and this is somewhat driven by Kubernetes. Kubernetes is often a bit complicated, and so people need to set up platform teams to be able to work with it. And we generally think that platform teams are right in the problem that they're trying to solve, to create consistency, to create economies of scale, reuse, that sort of thing. But we've got some different ideas on what we think it takes to do platforms right and to do platform engineering done right. So you're going to see a bit of that in today's keynote as well. But let's come back to Kubernetes. So when we talk to application engineers, teams who just want to ship stuff to Kubernetes, just like they ship software to anywhere else, Kubernetes is in many ways just another target. The principles of continuous delivery, how a robust CD pipeline works, they haven't really changed, even though we're going to Kubernetes. There are some differences, though. Kubernetes, for example, tends to be much more asynchronous in nature, and so it takes time for changes to replicate out, and something that looks like a successful deployment can later turn into a failed deployment. In this year, we did a lot of work around best-in-class Kubernetes deployments. We shipped our auto-scaling worker. So if you have a Kubernetes cluster, you can effectively just point Octopus at it, and we can run worker tasks directly on the cluster, creating pods and executing tasks inside of them without needing to provision anything else. And this was built on top of the agent for Kubernetes that we launched this year, which provides a faster and more secure way for Octopus to work with your Kubernetes cluster. We're also doing a lot of work around observability in Kubernetes. Because Kubernetes is so asynchronous, even if a deployment initially succeeds, something can go wrong later. And Kubernetes is a powerful system, so you can't just give every developer on your team access to be able to do the things they need to do to be able to diagnose what might be going wrong in production. But because Octopus understands how your application is structured, and because we have access to the systems, and we have a very strong permission system, Octopus is going to become the place where your engineers come to understand what's going wrong with applications that are running in production. Imagine being able to, receive logs to see that something has failed. And if you're familiar with the deployment dashboard in Octopus, you're typically used to seeing green ticks when deployments succeed. But in this case, you'll be able to see that, hey, the deployment succeeded, but something went wrong and the application is now down, and the dashboard will update in real time. So this isn't all. We shipped many other features related to Kubernetes this year, Helm triggers, this sort of thing, and you'll see much more about those today in the keynote. When we work with customers who are doing Kubernetes, there's something you can't ignore though, and it's this rise of GitOps. And in particular, infrastructure engineers have really latched on to GitOps as a new way of doing operations. With Kubernetes comes YAML, a lot of YAML, and it feels very natural to take those YAML files and to put them in source control. And it sounds simple, but when you think about it, this is a real paradigm shift for infrastructure engineers. I'm a software developer. I've been using source control for 20 plus years. But for infrastructure people, this is a bit of a new phenomenon. Most infrastructure work was done at the end of an SSH terminal or a remote desktop connection. But now with Kubernetes, with files that are stored in YAML, storing them in Git becomes a very powerful way to do operations, and the ability to have a pull request related to changes that we're making to our infrastructure running in production is a big paradigm shift. Now, what we find when we talk to application engineers, though, is they're not quite as excited about GitOps as the infrastructure teams are. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If I'm an infrastructure engineer changing something about how the network is configured in production, I probably should do that through a pull request. And there probably should be a review process. But if I'm an application engineer and I'm delivering software that we're building internally using continuous delivery, my pull request was reviewed quite a while ago when I merged the code into the main branch and it got built, and now it's just working through the deployment pipeline. And so future pull requests aren't really that exciting for me. And so one thing we found in the last year, particularly as we talk to customers who are all in on GitOps or just coming at Kubernetes from a CD point of view, there are these big differences in how they approach it. Now, in March this year, you might have seen that we acquired CodeFresh. And so at Octopus today, we effectively have two products. There's the continuous delivery tool that you're familiar with, where we focus on doing deployments really well, doing them at scale, and where we focus on application engineers creating robust pipelines. And then we have the CodeFresh GitOps product, which focuses on the infrastructure engineers at your company. Now, CodeFresh works as a managed control plane for Argo. The entirety of CodeFresh GitOps is built on top of Argo. And it has really powerful features like promotions, the ability to manage many clusters, many Argo instances, all in one control plane. And it works really great when you have a lot of projects, a lot of Argo instances, and a lot of Kubernetes clusters. If your infrastructure team is using Argo today, by thinking about what it would look like when you go beyond a handful of Argo instances and when you go beyond a handful of people doing GitOps and really try and roll this out at scale across your organization, you're probably going to be faced with, using Argo for part of that and then building a lot of custom functionality on top of it. And that's effectively the roadmap for CodeFresh GitOps. Now at Octopus, we're actually going all in on Argo. So CodeFresh, the acquisition of CodeFresh was part of that. CodeFresh has a very long history with Argo. They were actually the first commercial vendor to lean in and support Argo when it became an open source project, when Intuit donated it to the CNCF. And they helped to launch the first ArgoCon way back in 2021. CodeFresh GitOps, as I said, is built completely on top of Argo, and so they've been contributing to the Argo code base for many years now. and they really have become the world's experts in supporting enterprises who are running software on top of Argo. But the Octopus product, I showed you the observability dashboard previously, that's also built on top of Argo. And we're seeing more and more Argo functionality and features start to make their way into Octopus. We'll be working on Argo rollouts coming into Octopus at some point next year. Like I said, a lot of the observability work that we've done is built on top of Argo. And you'll see some Argo CD targets come into Octopus as well. And we're making sure that we give back as part of this. We've got a dedicated open source engineering team. In fact, we're hiring for that team at the moment, more people, making sure that we do our job as a good commercial steward for the Argo project, and making sure that it continues to get better as we build on it. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what we're working on and doing around Kubernetes and Argo and how we see GitOps and CD coming together and evolving. The second big theme, though, is around platform engineering. But this is a good time to introduce Colin Bowern, our SVP of Product. So I'm going to thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of the keynote, and I'm going to hand over to Colin.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, over the past 10 years, we've seen the number of projects grow from hundreds to thousands, and in some cases, even tens of thousands. At the high end, we see thousands of application teams in various business units building and supporting these projects. And all of this is really coming at a time where this platform engineering concept is trying to emerge. Now, we see platform engineers working hard to create that standard process for moving code from commit to production. And building that first standard process, getting those initial projects and first teams set up, that's been fairly easy because everybody wants this simpler, easier world where people can just focus on getting stuff done. However, the other thing we've observed is the real challenge as we talk to platform teams is building up on these early successes and trying to reach the 10th team, the 100th team. And that's the thing that's proving more difficult. And platform teams, we see conducting satisfaction surveys, hiring product managers, they're all in this struggle to figure out how do we get wide adoption. And we expect them to form actually a picture of the macro challenges to achieving CD at scale. I love this quote from one of our customers where he said, it's not CD that's the real problem here. We can figure out how to build that golden path. It's trying to get 400 teams to do CD at scale consistently. So if we dive into that a little bit and try and figure out what's actually going on, there's three big themes, three big buckets that we see these problems coming up in. First, I think it's no surprise that no company will ever embrace a single tech stack fully, especially at a mid to large size scale. You have applications running on mainframes and servers, and they're probably gradually moving to containers or maybe being rewritten as serverless. However, they're going to have a variety of requirements. They're going to have legacy systems, vendor lock-in, competing priorities, all of these things that are going to drive business priorities in various different directions. And so getting to that single tech stack is often 5, 10, 15 years for some companies. Now, technology aside, you also have the different parts of the business that have their own objectives. You got stakeholders pulling in various directions. You got budget appetite to invest in standardization. All of this misalignment is actually good for large businesses because it's what helps keep them both stable and innovate in parts of the business. So if platform teams want to make a difference in this world, they're going to need to actually accept that there's natural misalignment in the business. And this is not something to fight against, it's actually to lean into and build towards. And so finally, do you have tools that can flex to these different needs of these applications or teams? Can it work at the pace of those teams? In tech, we often design tools for ideal situations, and we leave it up to users to figure out how best to adopt these and adapt these to the real world variations. One thing we consistently hear about, both at this past KubeCon and previous years, is the one size fits all approach won't really work well at scale. And of course, if platform teams get the abstraction wrong, they're risking taking on support burdens, diminishing the overall return on investment for platform engineering. So over the past 18 months, we've been ramping up our research, trying to figure out how best we can support your platform engineering efforts. And we've begun to build the first bits of our vision. I'm going to tell you the really high level, and Ships a little bit in a little bit is going to give you some more of the details. But we think of it as three big areas of investment. We're developing blueprints that allow you to define those golden paths. but also that allow those teams to adapt them without becoming orphaned. We want to make sure that the benefits that they experience on day one continue to persist on day 100 and beyond. And being able to push and pull changes from the platform team in that sort of calm and orderly way, that's a way to make your application team super happy, because they get to stay compliant on that golden path, but they're not forced to do it when it's inconvenient or perhaps super risky for them to take on those changes. We plan to implement guardrails to not only manage those IT risks through your standard sort of compliance and security controls. We're also looking at ways we can incentivize teams that are following good practices, shipping good, stable, safe deployments and making sure that we can offer them ways to perhaps reduce administrative burden. Our aim at the end of the day is to build a positive experience. We want more teams in your organization to be like your best team, reaching that peak performance. And we think we can do some of that through guardrails that not just protect, but also incentivize. And finally, I mentioned that organizational, that natural misalignment in enterprise. We're factoring in exception handling right from the start, ensuring that teams who need to go outside the norm don't drop out of sight, because there's nothing worse than being surprised by shadow IT, especially when it's in the midst of a breach or a failed audit result. So from the outset, we want to make sure that we get this right, and it's really important for us. And so we're taking our time working with our customers. And so a big thank you to everybody who's joined our pre-alpha program and given us a ton of insights into how their world works, the things that they're struggling with their IDP or their DIY platform engineering efforts, and helping us figure out how can we bring product off the shelf that works for you. So this is a bit of a glimpse into the vision. We've got 2 to 3 years of investment ahead of us in this space. Lots more to come. And so stay tuned. We'll talk about it in a minute. So I want to introduce the product managers here, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we've shipped and what's next. And as Paul mentioned, this isn't everything. We've got so much more that we're doing. And if you pay attention at octopus.com/roadmap or octopus.com/what's due, or read the newsletter, we're always trying to find ways to communicate with you and tell you about all the great things, both big and small, that we've been working on. Now, everything we do really sits on this consistent promise of repeatable, reliable, traceable operations. We believe that when it comes time to deploy, especially to production, that we want to make sure that we've made every effort to give you confidence that it will work. And when deployments do fail, we want to help you diagnose and recover from them fairly quickly. And we achieve this through the investments and all of the jobs to be done around continuous delivery, not just making it deploy, but getting into all those different scenarios that you want to model, run, verify, and recover from. And we're listening to your feedback as we go. We don't always get it every scenario covered in V1, and we want to make sure that we put those small improvements and fixes into the mix. Because at Octopus, we really do value your feedback. The customer feedback channel, this is one of the few places I work where pretty much everybody in the business is watching it. We read every single piece. When it comes through our roadmap, support tickets, conversation with Octonauts, and even our in-product satisfaction surveys. And for a few of you out there, we also know that you find some of those surveys a little bit annoying. We're also actively finding better ways to prompt you when it's convenient for you, because it's really important to know that we're shipping a great product experience for you. So we'll continue to work on the CNPS survey as well. But look, many of these small improvements and fixes, they were a result of the experiences that you shared with us. And while it may not always be the first time we hear a concern, sometimes it's your specific words that help us really better understand the issue and make that dot connect. And so our support, customer success, and R&D teams, we're always out there looking at the feedback, looking for the trends, looking for that opportunity to figure out what to do next. So I'm going to introduce you today to 3 big strategic areas of investment. Probably no surprise, the amount of Kubernetes we talked about earlier. We've been working on that for a while. We've still got a few big pieces left. We'll talk about developer experience, and we'll talk about platform engineering. For us, Kubernetes has made significant strides, and we've dedicated the past 2 years to simplifying the deployment of containers, ensuring it's both easy and accessible to everyone, especially that 10th and 100th application team. In terms of developer experience, we really want to keep those application engineers engaged and productive. Nobody wants to juggle yet another browser tab to find the information they need. So we're looking at all kinds of ways, and we've been investing in shipping some ways for you to integrate Octopus directly into the tools your developers already use. And finally, you might be able to tell I'm really excited to share what we've been doing in platform engineering. As I mentioned previously, this will be a critical focus for us in the next few years as we work to unlock continuous delivery at scale. Now, to give you more details on these areas, I'll invite the three of our product managers to share what's shipped and what's next in some of these areas. First up is Kit, who will delve into continuous delivery for Kubernetes. Over to you, Kit.
Thanks. So, hey everyone, I'm Kit. I'm product manager at Octopus. And for the past 2 years, our team has been focused on Kubernetes and deployments to Kubernetes to build the best experience in Octopus. Today, I will guide you through the challenges that many companies encounter when scaling deployments to Kubernetes, and I'll try to explain how Octopus addresses these challenges. We will also discuss what's coming next for Kubernetes and Octopus, and how you can give us feedback on that and help us to build the best experience ever. So, Octopus was built from the very beginning to simplify complex deployments across various environments. Deployments has always been complex, and as more organizations moved to Kubernetes, the challenge grew even larger. Kubernetes accelerated the adoption of microservices and made it easier to spin up new environments like dynamic environments, and allowed consistent deployments across multiple clouds and private data centers. So the number of classes targets just grew bigger. And all that led us to more complicated deployment landscape. We in Octopus, we saw this complexity, and we thought about this as an opportunity. So the question we asked ourselves was, how can we still keep deployment simple and manageable, but yet scalable, and embrace all these advantages, unique opportunities with Kubernetes introduced to the whole ecosystem? So the ecosystem of Kubernetes already has a lot of great open source tools and best practices. And we don't think we should reinvent the wheel here, like introducing competing new practices or new ways of doing things. Instead, we build our solution on this strong foundation. Our idea is we need to integrate with Helm and customize and allow people to use YAML and embrace Git as much as we can, and do it natively within Octopus. So with Octopus, you can automate complex workflows and manage deployments for hundreds of microservices, run deployments in the GitOps style, and all that using tools you already know and use, so you don't have to start from scratch. It's about bringing the full potential of Kubernetes within Octopus platform with all the ecosystem. But here's the thing, in Kubernetes in general, as companies scale on Kubernetes, they often hit a wall where standard tools can't keep up just without adding a lot of complexity and cost. When Kubernetes adoption extends beyond a few teams, a number of microservices, environments, and regions grow, you usually reach the point where managing configurations, automating processes, and supporting very different team experience levels just become overwhelming. The cost of supporting that is growing, and outcome kind of stays the same. So the whole idea of Octopus, as I mentioned, bringing all these tools together, it's allow us to using the same tools, again, using the same best practices, but focusing on things like templating, separation of concerns, traceability, and automation for multi-step deployments. So that's where we see Octopus playing the critical role, on top of other best practices and tools. So how do we do that? We have a few core principles in mind, how we believe you can scale Kubernetes deployments. It's not like you should use all of them. It's a choice. So you can select and embrace some of them, all of them, or none of them, and still use Octopus for your Kubernetes deployments. But I think the more principles you implement, probably easier it is to scale beyond like 100 and 300, 500 microservices and like dozens of teams. So the first idea we have is deployment process is almost never is just about applying configuration to a cluster. It's always about some other steps, like change management or test steps or notification. And all that should be straightforward, not just the actual configuration application. So when I look at our stats, a typical deployment process to Kubernetes in Octopus has at least 5 steps. And if you try to do it with scripts, automated scripts, that would be really challenging. The second idea is it doesn't matter how complex the process, your deployment process is, you should be able to create it once for all environments or within application, and then you should be able to just reuse it instead of trying to create a process for each environment, and then adding the environment obviously gets very complicated. Then instead of managing multiple copies of the same Kubernetes manifest, and this is important because that's where complexity comes in and that a lot of hours are spent on that, you should be able to use one template, maybe across multiple microservices, but definitely across multiple environments. And that's how you reduce the cost and embrace the scale. Another one is we believe in separation of environment-specific parameters, like something small you vary from environment to environment, and actual app configuration. So, for example, think about this. If you have just 5 environments and 100 microservices, the difference between how many things should alternate could be as significant as changing and managing 500 configuration files versus one central file and just adjusting small environment properties here and there. Another one is you should be able to separate configuration updates from releasing new versions of the app software. Again, this is about scale. You can change your configuration every time you have a new version, just change the container image tag. But what if you can do it without that? So how often you actually update the actual configuration? Let's say for same example, 100 microservices, 5 environments, and you deploy them daily, you can end up with something like 10,000 commits a month to just update the image tags, versus maybe just 2 or 3 if you actually changing your configuration file and then doing the container image tags management somewhere else. And finally, the final idea we have is everyone in your company, developers, platform engineers, QA engineers, product managers, should be able to just track deployment progression in real time with all information available in one place for all environments and all projects. So that's what we're building for. So let's put it all together. How would it look in action? Imagine have a DevOps engineer working with several teams deploying, let's say, 300 microservices across 5 regions. So the microservices are probably similar. You can create for them a single Helm chart and manage that in Git, and you're responsible for this. And all your projects will be using this. So each team are looking at like how a typical health step looks in Octopus. Each team has its project in Octopus, and they just reference the Helm chart you created for them, but they also added their own unique Helm values files. So they just alternate this template and do a little bit of adjustments for their particular app. So they still keep responsibilities clear, so you allow them the right level of flexibility, but the configuration is still centralized. And then you deploy across multiple environments. Environments are different, but not much. So most likely, you just create something like a variable set and introduce a few environment-specific parameters and then share this variable set across all the projects. That's how you can achieve like real scale, and then adding the new project will literally take almost 0 time. And finally, you don't want to update your configuration every time you deploy a new microservice. Again, on the scale of hundreds of microservices, might be tedious. So you use release triggers in Octopus, and that's how you configure them. So Octopus will just create a new release and supply the right container image tag every time a new container is built. And that's how you reduce the load. And then you look at the Octopus dashboard, and it shows exactly which version of an app is running where, in what environment. And your teams can just have clear, up-to-date insights. You can find this example with one central Helm chart and values files and dashboard in our sample instance. You see the link on the left. And yeah, just take a look. This is how you can apply all these principles and actually benefit from scale Octopus and using something like Helm, which is a native Kubernetes tool. So what's next? You can already scale, as I said, deployments to hundreds of applications and clusters, and it's relatively easy with Octopus. But we're not going to stop here. We actually have exciting plans for the coming year, and we would love, I would personally love, for you to be a part of this adventure. Right now, our team is working on the next big improvement. Very soon, you'll see the live object stages for Kubernetes. This feature will show you health, events, logs, and YAML configurations right in real time for the app to deploy through Octopus. We're also exploring progressive deployments like Blue, Green, and Canary, and potential integration with Argo CD, bringing the native capabilities of Argo CD in Octopus. To get an idea of what we're working on, you can take a look at our roadmap. It's like octopus.com/roadmap. And please share your feedback. Just let us know if it makes sense for you, and maybe share your stories about how you automate Kubernetes to deploy to Kubernetes right now. What tools do you use? What problems you face? I'm really looking forward to hear from you. Thank you. And yeah, over to you, Harriet.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harriet, the product manager here at Octopus Deploy, dedicated to making an uncompromised developer experience for our customers, ensuring that developers can work effectively and without interruptions. As touched on earlier, we lean heavily on the Agile Manifesto, where our priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery. At Octopus, we are passionate about deployment frequency, and we've made it easier than ever for teams to deploy quickly and reliably. But we don't want to just stop there. We aim to create a world where developers can not only deploy quickly, but can also reduce failure rates, improve recovery times, and create a continuous feedback loop, all whilst staying in the flow. We believe this is the key to delivering the best possible developer experience. Our mission is to eliminate the distractions that pull engineers out of the flow. We are dedicated to building features that empower developers to work more efficiently right within their chosen tool. By minimizing context switching, we help teams maintain focus and boost productivity. This year, we are focused on improving the integration between Octopus Deploy and GitHub, making them better together. The reason why is pretty simple. GitHub is easily the product most commonly used in combination with Octopus. Our telemetry shows that more than 60% of Octopus customers also use GitHub. Part of our developer experience mission is to allow engineers to stay in the tools they are productive and familiar with. And for many of you, that means GitHub. To this end, we're focused on enhancing the GitHub integration in several key areas. GitHub Actions gives developers the ability to automate their builds with GitHub Actions and then integrate with Octopus to handle the complex deployments. Our GitHub Copilot extension lets developers query Octopus, manage their deployments, and create and deploy releases and runbooks from their IDE. Along with the GitHub Actions and Copilot extension integration, my team focused this year on improving the security and ease of use of Octopus's connection to GitHub with two key features. OpenID Connect for integrating GitHub Actions with Octopus, and then the Octopus Deploy GitHub app. Historically, letting tools like GitHub Actions or any other product interact with the Octopus API meant creating an Octopus API key and configuring the tool to authenticate using the API key. The downside of sharing API keys is that they have to be carefully managed. You need to store them securely to minimize the risk of leaking them to third parties, and it's good practice to regularly rotate the keys. It's also good practice to scope the keys as tightly as possible, which can mean a large number of keys to manage and a lot of overhead. OpenID Connect, or OIDC, has emerged as an elegant way to allow systems to authenticate without sharing long-lived credentials, for example, API keys or username and password. OIDC removes the need to pre-share credentials by trusting specific by trusting a specific issuer, in this case GitHub. Not only that, it allows trusting specific subjects, which in this case of OADC for GitHub means specific repositories, branches, tags, or environments. This is powerful. You can now configure Octopus to allow, for example, the GitHub actions running in the pet shop repository on the main branch to publish packages and create releases in Octopus without pre-sharing any credentials. And we've also published the Octopus Deploy GitHub app in the GitHub Marketplace, where OADC allows connections from GitHub to Octopus without pre-shared credentials. The Octopus Deploy GitHub app will enable Octopus Deploy to connect to GitHub without configuring GitHub credentials in Octopus. The concrete benefit of this today is that config as code projects can be quickly and easily connected to your GitHub repository without spending time setting up the correct permissions to authenticate. These two key features, OADC and the Octopus Deploy GitHub app, are central to our commitment to making your workflows more secure, efficient, and streamlined, while reducing the time and effort spent on setup and configuration, and helps lay the groundwork for what's next in the developer experience. So what is next? Well, we're just getting started. As engineers building tools for engineers, we understand the pain of constantly switching between platforms and the frustration of roadblocks. That's why we're committed to bringing Octopus Deploy directly into the developer's workflow to make tasks smoother and more efficient. Config as code for runbooks and ephemeral environments are already in the pipeline. With Config as code for runbooks, which has been one of our most highly asked for features, engineers will soon be able to manage runbooks within their preferred Git repositories. This will streamline maintenance tasks and workflows entirely within their chosen IDE, improving efficiency and reducing context switching. Similarly, ephemeral environments tied to pull requests will allow engineers to test changes in isolated environments before merging them into the mainline, reducing delays and boosting confidence in the deployment process. These features are just the beginning. As we continue to evolve the developer experience, we're focused on adding even more value to your workflow. For example, features like change observability and feature toggles are on the horizon. Full traceability will give engineers greater visibility into the entire journey of a change, from commit to production, making it easier to track and manage updates across the environments. Feature toggles will offer greater control over production releases, allowing teams to activate or deactivate specific features without requiring a full rollback should something go wrong, improving both deployment confidence and recovery times. These upcoming capabilities are designed to further streamline the development and deployment processes, aligning with the key metrics that matter most to high-performing engineering teams. We're excited to continue building on the foundation to enhance your team's efficiency and help you achieve a greater success. We can't wait to see this journey, so please keep an eye out on our roadmap for updates and share any feedback you might have on any of these upcoming features. Thank you for your time. Now over to you, Ships.
Thanks, Harriet. Hi, I'm Ships. And for the past few months, I've been focusing on learning the needs of platform teams. What we've learned, I'm going to share a bit about what we've learned and give you a sneak peek of the future. First up, we've been seeing in the industry that platform engineering is gaining momentum. You can see that even on the Gartner hype cycle, developer platform and productivity is one of the emerging themes. All of this is sort of coming down to the same age-old problem of standardization. What's been happening is over the last few years, everyone's owned the full end-to-end DevOps stack, which has led to kind of reinventing the wheel and deviating and finding different ways of doing the same thing. And so platform engineering as an approach is being used to bring it back to that standardized way with best practices and compliance in place. So we're seeing that our customers are investing in building developer platforms, and we're seeing this across all sizes of organizations, small and big, thinking about building that internal developer platform. The key benefits that our customers hope to get out of an internal platform includes built-in compliance by default, best practices included into golden paths, and overall reducing that developer cognitive load and improving their internal experience. So as I mentioned, we've spoken to over 30 platform teams in the last 6 months, and we saw that companies are taking various approaches to building that internal developer platform. Some are building their golden paths using homegrown solutions with a lot of scripts to stitch together multiple tools. Others are attacking it in a different way by bringing through a developer portal solution like Backstage, which ends up providing a better developer user experience, but still needs a lot of orchestration behind the scenes. All of these approaches are not quite working well yet. And we're finding that enforcing policies as well as rolling out new changes and maintaining those golden paths in the long run is still hard. Application teams can start with templates on that day 0, day 1, and then can start to customize it and deviate from it. And so platform teams do not really get that visibility of when that happens. This means it becomes sort of an ongoing maintenance nightmare for platform teams on day 200, day 300, when they have to go and update those golden paths. They become overwhelmed with troubleshooting and firefighting and have to sort of hand roll out those changes when new standards come in. If you want to hear more about this, tune into my talk later. We're doing one on top 5 insights from talking to 30 platform teams later in the day, so tune in to hear more. But for now, we'll talk about deployment orchestration. So we're seeing that overall in the industry, there's no good solutions out there for deployment orchestration at scale, especially. Starting with IDP like a portal is a misstep. Teams should really focus on solving for that deployment and platform orchestration pieces first. And in that space, we're seeing some tools that are really helping you out by having those templates or having a solution to build templates. It helps you build that getting started kit. But there's no sort of solutions out there that solve for rolling out those new changes, managing exceptions, showing traceability, even measuring impact of your developer platform, right? And but we think that so far, Octopus really has the foundations for your future platform. We are the best CD solution out there, and we will be the best CD solution at scale, helping you standardize those deployment pipelines at scale and reducing maintenance costs and ultimately improving your internal DevX. As Harriet mentioned just before me, we're obsessed with building an amazing developer experience. So we're really focused on this, and we're now wondering, how can we do this and help you do this without introducing yet another tool or yet another tab on that browser? And we think we have an answer. Our vision for platform teams is that Octopus Deploy offers centrally managed deployment pipeline templates with enforceable guardrails. It would help you remove friction for developers in their deployment processes. And we will have built-in exception management to work with that natural misalignment that occurs throughout big organizations and business units. We think this will improve your organization's developer experience by reducing duplication and scaling best practices to ultimately reduce that auditing burden. Now I'd like to share a bit of a sneak peek of what that means. We are thinking deeply about that pipeline standardization. And in the future, we will imagine no team will begin with an empty Octopus project. They will begin with these project templates that would be customized and provided by platform teams within their orgs. It will likely include everything surrounding the deployment context, including the process steps, variable configuration, runbooks, environment scopes, and more. And with templates, we think platform teams can go from thousands of pipelines to tens, have built-in security and compliance checks by default. We think that they'll be able to roll out new changes with ease, with a few button clicks instead of manual hand-rolling processes. And we'd love to give platform teams the ability to manage exceptions and also be able to customize their templates for that app team that's working on your new innovation project or the labs team. Ultimately, we're hoping platform teams can breeze through audit time by monitoring and rectifying pipeline compliance. And this is just the beginning, so please keep watching the space. We want to help platform teams become the hero in the eyes of application teams. And we think Octopus will be the only tool that solves for pipeline standardization at scale. We'll be investing in here over the next several years. So we're really open to your feedback and ideas, and we'd love to hear more from you. As the first step, the first tangible step on our journey here, we are building something called process templates, and an alpha version will be out March next year. We'd love for you to, if you're interested, to trial it. Please register your interest via our roadmap. You've been hearing a lot of good stuff today from all of my colleagues, so please take that roadmap link at the bottom of the slide, bookmark it, and keep submitting your feedback and your suggestions through it. We're really, really listening and keen to hear it. We'd love to hear more about the challenges that your developer platform's facing, about your challenges that your application teams are facing, and any other things that you think Octopus should consider. So that's it from us for now. Back to you, Colin.
Thanks, Ships. I hope you spotted something that will improve how you deploy your apps. Our roadmap is influenced our vision. Our vision has influenced our roadmap. We're learning from the industry. We're learning from you. We really want to hear from you. So look, there's all kinds of ways that you can help us make this a better product for you. First and foremost, our public roadmap is updated regularly with some of the ideas we're exploring. If you find cards that resonate with you, please share your perspective. Your voice plays a crucial role in shaping our journey. Here are a few of the topics that we're hoping to hear about. Everything from feature toggles to Argo rollouts, to deployment policies, to how you track changes, and how you might want to template the entire project. If you can go to octopus.com/roadmap, you'll find a card related to these topics and more. Please share your thoughts. And stay tuned. We're also going to share a bunch of the things that we've learned in some of the upcoming sessions here at Shipped. It's important for us to not only just build great products, but also share some of the interesting insights that we get from talking to those hundreds to thousands of customers about any given topic. And you can also check out the industry surveys, the papers, and the books that we're creating to help you learn more about specific topics. These are written from the heart. We really want you to understand and see the world through the benefit of all the customers that we talk with and the patterns that we see that are working, and also the dangers that are out there, especially as you scale. We're working with customers with tens, hundreds, thousands of teams, to customers with hundreds of thousands of projects, clusters spread all over the world. We're seeing lots of different patterns, and we want to make sure that we share the things that we see are working with you, because we're excited to see our customers, our product teams, and industry experts to share how they've shipped their products. And that's why we've called this event Shipped. And so really excited to continue working with you Thank you for choosing Octopus, and on behalf of the over 300 Octonauts, we look forward to partnering with you on continuous delivery at any scale. Let's create some happy deployers every single day. Enjoy.